Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Lars Mährholz. He's one of the organizers of the End the Fed rallies across Germany that have become huge. Lars, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Hi, Max. Thank you.
It's so great to have you on the show. We've been hearing about these protests all over Germany to end the Fed. Why would Germany rally to end the Fed?
If you recognize this is a global system we are suffering on this planet, and it's a central banking system, and so it's a global problem. And in my opinion, the Federal Reserve is the beginning of this central banking system. And so I decided to go to the Federal Reserve law from 1913. And to end this law would be a way to change the whole world.
Right, so is these rallies have really taken off all over Germany. And
even more, Europe.
All over Europe
Yeah.
now. And so the idea being that the Federal Reserve Bank in Washington, D.C. is at the center of this global easy money policy that funds wars and funds all kinds of nasty business. Do people on the street, do they understand what you're talking about, the learning curve? How is that?
You know, it's like an education thing we have to go on here. You know, it's like the problem is an information war we are fighting. The people have to know how is money created. The people have to know how the Federal Reserve actually works. And the people have to know who is financing war. You know, and the people have to know who gets the money back afterwards. So these are questions they have to be asked.
Yeah, of course, in Europe there is the European Central Bank, which is a central bank in Europe.
Sure.
So one question that would pop up would be, why not go after the European Central Bank? Why the Fed and not the ECB?
I mean, we are mentioning the ECB for sure, you know, like it's a central bank, like the Federal Reserve, and it's a problem in Europe for sure. But as I said, if you go back and back, the first Federal Reserve, the first central bank was the Federal Reserve, like started from America. And then they built the system up in 186 countries till now, have the central banking system. And Germany and Europe also. So we mention this, but we go also a bit farther. We go to the beginning of everything. And in my opinion, it's the Fed.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to the Bank of England, which is going back a few hundred years, really, they were kind of the first central bank. Looking at American history, I believe it was Ben Franklin who said one of the primary reasons of the American Revolution was to get away from the central bank, to get away from the Bank of England, and they kept central banking out of America for 100 years or so, or until 1913, and then suddenly there's the Fed, there's the ECB, there's the Bank of England. And in Germany, of course, you do have Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank is an interesting case because they're tied at the hip to the central banking system. And as a result, they have this enormous portfolio of derivatives, these toxic securities that really gum up the system and cause all kinds of... Are people aware of the risk at Deutsche Bank? They have many trillions of dollars worth of these derivatives. Do you talk about that at all?
Sure, we talk about every big bank. You know, the German bank is really tied to the Federal Reserve. I think it's also a big owner of the Federal Reserve. So we have a few hundred banks. They own the Federal Reserve. It's all private. There is nothing from the government. We have to recognize that all central banks are private banks. They are lending countries money, and the countries have to pay it back with interest. So where do they have to get the money they have to pay back? They have to get it from the people in the countries. So, and the problem is that the German bank is also tied to the Fed, like many big banks are founded under this Fed thing. So the Fed is controlling everything. Every bank is controlled by the Fed, actually. You
know, people watching this who live in the United States will say, my good, Lars sounds a lot like Ron Paul.
Yeah.
You know, Ron Paul, American politician, has been crusading against central banks for years. And do you guys follow Ron Paul?
This was what I always said in Germany. When we rally the Fed in Germany and the world recognize us, and the world will see that in Germany, a really country where the economy is quite good in the moment actually, and the people are not suffering, the people are quite well. So if Germany starts to rally something like this, the whole world will follow. That's what I said from the beginning. That's the reason why I mentioned the Fed also. So I was aware of Ron Paul and his movement here, and I hoped all the time that we have like 1 million people in Germany, or in Europe, like 10 million people in Europe, that America will join with Ron Paul, and maybe we will also put 10 million people here on the street to end this Federal Reserve.
Talking about geopolitics and global monetary policy, there's a story that's come up in the last few years concerning the gold that is owned by Germany, but stored
Here.
in the United States. And after we did a report a few years ago exposing this, that in fact Germany's gold is not held in Germany, it's held in the New York Fed, German people were outraged by this, and there was a movement to repatriate the gold. The German government solicited the U.S. and the New York Fed to get their gold back, and the United States said, well, we can deliver a few tons of it, but not nearly the entire stock of gold that is owed to you. Is this part of the story as you see it?
Well, I don't care about this thing so much, because it's just, I don't know how to say, but it's not a problem. Like, if this gold is there or not there, it's...
Because usually if you're talking Ron Paul and you're talking about Fed policy and critical of the Fed, and you're talking about folks who fall into this camp, maybe it's a Peter Schiff is another famous guy who's in this camp, they are also gold enthusiasts.
Sure.
So I take it that you are not a gold enthusiast. So that would prompt me to ask, what kind of economy going forward do you see? Would you eliminate the Fed? Would you adopt new policies at the Fed? What are your thoughts?
Just end the law. First, just end the law. Don't care about the banks, you know. Don't care about the manager from the banks. Don't care about the banks. They can do what they are supposed to do after we ended this Federal Reserve law. I don't want to put banks out of business at all. So it's just do the right job at the right time, you know. The problem is not the capitalism we are suffering on this planet. The capitalism is just a small part of the central banking system, and this is the biggest problem. The capitalism is just like, yeah, it gets hard through this central banking system because big companies get money and they buy small companies. So we have a monopolism thing going on.
Right, so it feeds monopolism. Monopolies, you see a lot more monopolies.
Even the Fed is a monopolist.
It's a monopolist, and it feeds a lot more. The too big to fail banks got even bigger, thanks to the Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah, it's interesting that going back to the days of the Occupy Wall Street, they seem to have a lot of momentum, but not much behind it. And it seems that this kind of and the Fed would fit into what they were championing. Have you ever talked to those folks, and what's been the response?
Yeah, sure. I talked to a lot of guys from the Occupy Wall Street movement, but the problem is the most of them think that the capitalism is a problem on this planet. They don't go this step further to see where everything comes from. They don't want to talk about the Federal Reserve or about the central banks at all. You know, so I don't know. I try to get them in the right position. As I said, it's an education stuff. The demonstration we are doing in Germany, it's not really a demonstration. It's like educating people. So every Monday the people come to 100 different cities in Germany and they get information and education. They don't get to the mainstream media. They don't get in school. So we should have in school we should have a lesson like how money works. So how money is created and stuff like this. Nobody learns this. Money is created out of nothing today. Nothing, no value at all. And if countries cannot pay back their debt, they have to give land and companies, they were all owned by the country. So the banks are taking over countries in the moment. And in my opinion, we not even have like 10 years to stop this, because then we're having a banking dictatorship or a banking fascism going on worldwide. So that is the reason we have a worldwide problem. So the independency of any states they're going to lose it. Because when you vote now, it doesn't matter who you are voting for the government, because the central bank is dictating what the politics have to say and to do.
So when you mention a phrase like banking fascism, and you're against fascism in Germany, of course, suddenly, you know, a lot of memories flood back and images flood back of fascism, and clearly this is a very charged phrase to say we're against banking fascism, and clearly in Germany, can you make that comparison to what's going on in the banking system to fascism? And people, is this what people accept, that it is a form of fascism, that they're seeing a reemergence of fascism, of banking fascism? Do they understand that this is the genie, the evil from 50, 60, 70 years ago? The genie's out of the bottle again, but it's taken a new form. It's called Janet Janet Yellen, Ben Bernanke,
Yeah.
the ECB. These are the new fascists.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, and I think the people are recognizing it, and the people are getting it. They understand it. They understand this money system we are living in is killing the planet. It's killing the people. You know, like we are here in America or Europe, we belong to 3% of the planet who can live so well. 97% are suffering because of our 3%. So that's not fair.
Right, so it's interesting that you do make the distinction. You say that you're not anti-capitalism, you're not anti-free market,
No.
you're for competition. You just want to get rid of this negative force in the
Yeah.
mix, this central banking system that's creating monopolies, it's creating wars,
Yes.
it's creating wealth and income gaps, it's creating fascism, it's re-engineering fascism in the 21st century. And so where do you think, we have about 30 or 40 seconds left, where do you think this is going to be in a couple of years? Where do you see your protests heading? What is the outcome?
If it keeps on spreading like now, we will have 10 million people in 1 year on the streets worldwide. As I said, we have half of Europe. We have Spain, we have Italy, we have Norway, we have Sweden, we have Austria, we have Switzerland, and we have about over 150 vigils momentarily worldwide, over 100 in Germany. And the dream and the goal is to have like 30 million people worldwide on the street saying with one voice, end the central banking system. And that would be a change for the planet.
Yeah, there is right now, as we speak, an introduction of a global legislation that would introduce global banking regulations. Mm-hmm. So this is the global banking system now creating harmonized global banking regulations to bring all of their little evil tricks to every single country. And so hopefully you guys will be successful in stopping that from taking place. I'm going to go to Germany. I'm going to speak at one of your rallies and see if I can't get, give the Max effect.
Yeah, sure, man.
To stir the people.
You're invited every time.
My name is Keiser, Max Keiser. I would think I would be well received there.
There you are, for sure.
Okay, Lars, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you very much, Max.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacy Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Lars Mährholz of the Stop the Fed campaign, sweeping Germany and the globe. If you'd like to tweet us, by all means, tweet us. Until next time, this is Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.